Doctors are expected to understand and value their patients' spiritual and religious needs. Many people find purpose in believing in miracles, especially when their lives are in danger. Do you ever believe in miracles? Stay tuned as we talk about the extraordinary case of Alex Lewis miracle documentary. Before tuning in, we would love it if you'd click the like button, subscribe to the channel, and smash that bell button for more documentary videos just like this one. It can be very painful to learn that you or a loved one suffers from a major medical condition, especially if the outlook is not good. Among the numerous possible reactions to this type of news, including disbelief, sadness, and fear, many people seek spiritual support, including the expectation of a miracle. Alex Lewis experiences a world-first procedure and medical tattooing done to reconstruct his face. A father has improved his life after losing his 4 limbs and his lips. Alex had skin grafted around his mouth from his shoulder after losing part of his face to a severe flesh-eating infection. He also had his lips tattooed onto the skin. Mr. Lewis now claims that he is the only person in history to have had surgery to cover both his top and bottom lips with a single piece of skin at the same time. An ordinary cold evolved into a succession of infections in November 2013, leaving him with a 3% chance of life. Mr. Lewis spent 6.5 months in the hospital, through 18 procedures, and had both legs and arms as well as his lips amputated. He then began the long and arduous path to recovery. He is an extraordinary survivor from any point of view, according to Mr. Lewis's physician, who compared his injuries to those sustained by someone in a bomb blast. He also added that he takes pleasure in the fact that Alex is one of a kind with this type of face. He is now busy operating his organization to raise money for high-quality prosthetic to reclaim his freedom. Mr. Lewis had been suffering from what he called a cold or man flu for around 2 weeks when the incident first occurred. He got to his feet in the bathroom and noticed that there was blood in his urine. Then, the following day, he couldn't move much and his skin had begun to turn purple. He was rushed to Winchester General Hospital, where doctors discovered that an infection wreaked havoc on his organs. Mr. Lewis suffered Strep A, a Group A streptococcal infection type, advancing to toxic shock syndrome, septicemia, and necrotizing fasciitis rather than a common cold. As a result of his life-threatening condition, this developed within hours. Alex was admitted to intensive care, where things only got worse from there as gangrene spread throughout his body. He had been in intensive care for 6 or 7 weeks, and he was undergoing surgery every other day for that period. Essentially, the infection is attempting to reach his heart by way of his own body. It all originates with the fingertips, nose, and toes. By the time they discovered what was going on, it was already too late, as his legs had turned black within 3 or 4 days of being hospitalized. They were first scared that he would not make it out alive. It is really rare, Mr. Lewis explained about his situation. It was more likely that he would win the lottery than it was that he would get this flesh-eating necrotizing fasciitis, which developed due to the diseases that devastated his body, causing irreversible damage to his limbs and face. A condition known as gangrene is caused by an infection that causes cells and tissue to die. The infection then spreads to healthy tissue, causing that tissue to die as well. Averages of 20% of instances are believed to be fatal, and once a victim has died, the flesh cannot be recovered. As a result, doctors had no alternative but to begin amputations to prevent the infection from spreading to Mr. Lewis's vital organs. As a result, he lost all 4 of his limbs and his lips. Mr. Lewis also expressed his inability to comprehend the difficulties his mother was going through. He stated that his family actually endured a more difficult time while witnessing him go through the nightmare than he did himself going through it. The surgery was so terrible that Mr. Lewis's son Sam, who was only 3 years old, became afraid of his father and would refuse to go near him after the operation had damaged his body and face. When the infection spread to his nose and lips, they became gangrenous and surgeons removed all of the dead skin from his mouth. They then implanted a temporary flap of skin over his mouth for 9 months to keep the infection at bay. He needed the nurse's assistance to eat sandwiches at night, and it took him nearly an hour to do so. Following his recovery from the sickness, physicians began the process of reconstructing his mouth. Shoulder skin was used to produce the appearance of lips. Mrs. Crick, a Salisbury-based cosmetic surgeon specializing in lip enhancement, used flesh from Mr. Lewis's shoulder to build his new lips in a brutal operation. All of his other skin had either been used for transplants or had been scarred in some way. Because it was only one piece of skin, we might envision putting a bag on our mouth and then sewing around its borders. Following the initial operation, he was required to have them opened every 3 to 4 months. Initially, Mr. Lewis's new lips were formed of naturally fattier skin than the rest of his face. They were a different color from his face, which made them stand out a great deal. However, regular surgery, and a total of 6 surgeries, to thin the transplanted skin has reduced the size of the scars and allowed them to merge more smoothly into his cheeks and chin. Mrs. Crick, who performed all 18 of Mr. Lewis's operations, said she knew of only one case where lips were reconstructed from thigh skin. She went on to express her delight at the operation's success. She noted that Alex's muscle, together with its nerve supply and functions, had been preserved, allowing Alex to close his lips and open his mouth, allowing him to speak, eat, and drink, as well as perform oral hygiene. Although the reconstruction had been accomplished and as good as technically possible, it is impossible to recreate what has been fully obliterated. The surgery was a full-day operation because it is rare to have complete skin abnormalities of both the top and lower lips that require reconstruction in one sitting. Using Alex's upper and lower lips as the templates, Mrs. Crick removed the scar and the skin graft. She corrected muscle defects where possible and recreated the skin defects with a free skin flap. The skin flap that was used to recreate Alex's face features was taken from his upper back. The constant exposure of the flap to sunlight, combined with some outstanding tattooing, has improved this match. Following the restoration of his lips, the tattooing of the lips began. Tattooing had resulted in lips and freckles that are remarkably realistic looking. In addition to working with Katie Piper, a former model who is permanently scarred after having acid thrown in her face, Karen Betts, a medical tattooist, has also helped other victims of acid attacks. To make the area around Mr. Lewis's mouth look more like his face as a whole, Miss Betts worked for free to tattoo realistic red lips, freckles, and other stubble markings into the skin of his upper lip and upper lip area. Mr. Lewis expressed skepticism about entrusting a tattoo artist with his face. Still, after meeting Karen, he felt immediately at ease. She appeared to be the most qualified candidate for the task. She was quite upbeat, and she's completely improved his outlook on life. By far, the most special form of surgery he can get is facial surgery. Mr. Lewis stated that when he awoke, he was originally horrified. After the surgery, he didn't sleep for 7 days. If he was wheeled by a mirror and saw himself, or if people used to gaze at him, they would see his face as puffy and foreign. He also added that he now embraces the fact that he is the only person with this type of face. Astonishingly, all of the nerves and muscles have regrown, and now the lips work normally. Miss Betts stated that after the transformation she has never worked on skin placed over lips before and has never come across it. She also said Alex is such an inspiration and an incredible guy. Miss Betts creates the illusion of 3D lips by layering color and imperfections for a more natural look. Because the sun will fade it, they've proposed that they do it every 12 months. When she looks back to when they first met, tears well up in her eyes. They got what Alex wanted, and she knows it gave him more confidence. His shift has had the greatest influence on re-establishing his relationship with his son Sam. Alex's son Sam was so afraid of his father's face that he couldn't even approach him to hug him. He recognized his father, but he just couldn't figure out what was wrong. They had this incredible bond before Alex became ill, and they were inseparable until it was suddenly cut, and he never imagined that he'd get it back. It has taken a long time to get back to where they were, but they've made it. What can you say about Mr. Lewis's bravery and faith? Have you ever encountered this kind of struggle in life that tested your faith and how strong you are? Let me know your thoughts and comment down below. Before the video ends, please don't forget to click like, share the content, subscribe to our channel, and tap the notification bell for more videos like this one to inspire you. Thanks so much, and I hope to see you again next time.